Hey, it's Mark again. This is part 3 in my series on repairing vintage toy games. The game featured in this video is a 1979 Atomic Arcade pinball machine. It's another great classic game from Tomy. In the video, I'm going to demonstrate how to replace a DC motor, which I find to be the most common problem with this machine. We'll start with an unboxing of the game. I'm going to show you how to disassemble it, explain the type of motor you need, how to replace it, we'll put it back together. We're going to play some atomic pinball. So let's get started. Okay, this is the box it comes in. A lot of them show their age. They're pretty, a lot of storage wear, a little weathered. But if you find a good one, they're actually a pretty sturdy box. So, the legs do detach. They should come detached. I ordered this one off eBay about a year ago, and the legs were still on it. The lid won't close, so I don't think some people are aware of that. But the game sits in there snug. It's pretty simple. There is an instruction sheet if you're lucky to get one. It's just, the one sheet shows you battery install, how the legs go on. That's pretty much it. And legs go back in these slots over here on either side of the machine. That's pretty much it. It is assembled and ready to play once you install the batteries. Another note that people don't know, when they go to ship one on eBay, they leave the ball rolling around inside the machine. It can actually be stored down in this lower left hand corner. There's a lever underneath the machine. You just pull it down, and it releases the ball. And when you're done and you're ready to ship it out again, or store it I should say, you just push the button. Push that little button back up, and it keeps the ball locked away in the corner. Just something that I don't think a lot of people are aware of, and I get them in the mail and the ball's bouncing around. So that's it, it's together, and let's proceed with the disassembly. Okay, to take this machine apart, you're going to need a Phillips screwdriver, a precision size or something similar, and a flat tip screwdriver or a tool with a flat tip, and I'll explain why. The machine's held together by only 3 screws, Phillips style, 3 of them here along the top of the scoreboard, but they're held together, or excuse me, held on by a nut on the bottom. You do have to remove the battery cover to expose one of the bottom of the screws. They're held on, like I said, by a small nut, and I can't get a ratchet set tool that's small enough to fit in there to hold the nut while I unscrew it. So I use a flat tip tool to wedge it against the nut as I unscrew it, and that seems to work for me. Unless you have another method, if they're older and the machine's never been opened before, you might need to spray some WD-40 down there. Some can be stubborn, they could be stripped, but I've worked on this machine before, so it should open fairly easy. So I'm going to start with actually I usually start with the middle one here. We're all done. Right, now we can take it apart. Okay, now that you have the 3 screws out, it comes apart very easy. You start with the top part, the scoreboard. It just lifts straight off. It's just a plastic cover. No wires attached. It's very light. So if you need to do any cleaning, it's easy to work with. The scoreboard, it exposes the scoreboard and the speaker. You have the on-off switch up here at the top. I'll get you a close-up of that. I like to take this thing off. This is the reset button for the scoreboard. It just comes out very easy. You don't want it falling out. Alright, so what you do now is you lift up the plastic cover. I'm doing this backwards, but there we go. It's not that hard. I'm just, okay. Well, alright, little tip, that little button here, lever I told you about for the ball, you got to pull this down. Oh, it's getting stubborn. Okay, without that down, it won't be able to lift up the glass cover to get it off. That's a little tip there that I do remember. It was always annoying. You lift straight up like that, and the rubber bumpers are already stuck to the glass cover, so leave those on there. Or you can replace them or do something, if they need cleaned. I use cleaning this with a glass cleaner, both sides. This one's actually in really good shape, not a lot of scratches. So I have worked on this already. It has the motor, but this is where I usually go ahead and just take the marble or the ball out, and I keep it somewhere, and I'll wipe that off later. Okay, the bumper, the paddles rather. So let's see here. These lift right off. Of course, you gotta make sure it goes in the right way. Now this metal piece is what you have to lift up. The metal base is to with the paint on it to expose the motor and everything. There's a screw right here. I took it out because it's not a flathead screw, and the ball hits and it kind of disrupts the movement of the ball. So I kind of picked up this tip to just leave it out. It's supposed to hold the metal plate in place, but it's not going to go anywhere with the glass cover on it when it's assembled. I prefer to have it out because for some dumb reason they didn't put a flathead screw in there. So all you do, again, just lift this right out. See the back. This one's in great shape. Ours had some rust on it. If there is rust, then you're going to have to just use a Dremel tool or some method you have, sandpaper, to clean it up. But the paint job on this one's very nice. I know some older ones, they tend to wear out. So I think this is one of those games where you buy two and you put the best parts in one. Alright, you're looking at the inner workings here. Now this all lifts out, but I leave it here because really once you're working on a motor here, you're not turning this upside down. But if you need to, you can take it out to clean, get any debris. The school board lifts right out. It's really simple. There's some gears here. See if that's getting on camera, I hope. You know. So people say the scoreboard isn't moving on some of the ones they're selling, and it might be because the gears broke or the gear's not sitting where it's supposed to. So I would check that first. This part of the machine I've never disassembled completely to clean. It's pretty complicated. You'd have to photograph it, and Lord knows if I ever got it back correctly. I just haven't had to deal with it. It's just something that, you know, isn't usually the problem. It's over here with the motor. Okay, I decided to get you a quick close-up. I guess my camera might have been too far away, but here's just some of the inner workings on a closer view. Again, the scoreboard just sits right in there, lifts out very easy. You can see the gears. Then you have your on-off switch. It's right here. This actually lifts off. So if you need to get down in here and clean that, that's right there too. And like I never had a problem with the speakers or those components. It's probably one of the more complicated parts. And then the wires come down. Here is the motor, sits in this housing. And you got 3 screws that expose that. And its wires, we're going to get to that. Okay, so before I show you how to replace the motor, this graphic shows you the type of motor that's required for this machine. You'll find that's a typical hobby motor that's in a lot of the vintage Tomy games. It's rated for 1.5 volts to 3 volts DC. There's 2 model numbers that should help you find one on the internet. There's Stephen Motors SVM260. They're out of New Jersey. And then the Mabuchi motor number is RE260RA, and I think there's some other variations on those letters. But that should help you locate them online. You can find them at stevenshobby.com. I've actually found this particular motor at Radio Shack stores. And of course, there's always trusty old eBay. On the far left there, you'll see the length of the motor. It's 38 millimeters, so 1.5 inches long. And that's measured from the tip of the motor shaft to just to the back of the white plastic, not the contacts for the positive and negative wires, but to the actual plastic cap on the back. And you can look at the packaging. There are schematics online, if you Google it, that'll show you the even more dimensions of the motor. So let's get started replacing it. Okay, so we're ready to remove the cover. Simple 3 Phillips screws. This will expose the motor. Just dump those out. Okay, so once you have that exposed, you just can put this off to the side, the plastic cover. Want to point out this gear here, when it spins, it's what activates the light to cause it to blink. You can see there's these ramps on here that go up and down. Well, they're at an incline, and as this thing spins, it pushes these two contacts together like that, and it causes the light to blink intermittently. And that's where that comes from, just in case you're wondering if your light doesn't work. That's what that does. To get the motor out, you have two black rubber like support caps, I guess, that go on either side of the modem. Do not throw those away. They have to go on the new motor that holds it in the case. You can just use a screwdriver or something, just lift it out. Alright, so when you lift that out, the rubber seal cap that's showing up, you can remove that. There's one on the back also. Remove it. And you're going to have to remove this gear. Just take a tool and slowly work it up. Just pry it off the motor. There's other videos out there, and I'll put a link in the description on how to do that. There's a great video out there somebody did on how to do it. This one's pretty simple. Okay, so don't always trust the color coding that red is positive and black is negative. That's why you have to use the battery test that I demonstrated in my other video. And actually look at the back of the motor. Sometimes it has positive, negative symbols. Some motors don't. For some reason the black is on the positive and the red's on the negative here. I'm not sure just what they did. Most motors have vents on one side. Again, that is your negative side typically. Check the packaging or look online. That's typical. You'll find that. But you have to desolder these two wires. There's two wires on the positive lead and one single on the negative side. So you just desolder those. Drop your new motor in. Make sure you put the shaft or the gear back on the motor shaft. You're ready to go. I want to point out one other thing. There's two little grooves here for these, the leads. The connector pins there on the motor go into these two little shafts, or grooves rather, in the plastic. So, and the rubber seals. So when you're ready to put it back together, you have to put on the rubber seal on the front. And this one's a little squished. It goes on the back. Let me get that turned around. Okay, and of course be careful with the wires. So I'm going to have to work it from the front or back, whatever's easiest for you. It's a little tricky here. See there, as you spin that, whoops, that came off. Always make sure everything's in place before you put the cover back on. Okay, and the trick here is to swing this plastic cover on without, try not to block the view here. Okay, and that should fit right on there without much resistance. Sometimes you might feel a little bit with the rubber seal. Okay, so once the cover's in place, drop in your 3 Phillips screws. Okay, now we're ready for the battery test before we put it together. Okay, so this is the point where we're ready to put the batteries in and give it a test run. I like to do the test before it's all back together. As I mentioned earlier in the video, it does require 5D batteries to operate. Technically, you only need 4 batteries to operate the game. The 5th one sits up here behind this speaker, and it only operates the dinging or bell noise you hear when the ball hits a bumper. You can leave that out if you don't want your kids driving you crazy. This game is noisy enough with just a motor running, so if you want to cut down on some noise, you can leave that 5th battery out. The rest of the game will play fine. The light blinks, of course, the scoreboard will move. So let's get the batteries in. A little trick I like to do is, since you have to tilt the game up and this stuff is loose, I put the scoreboard cover on just to hold that in place. So I tilt it on the side. I'm going to run all 5 batteries for this test. You can hear everything. Batteries fit in very nicely. You almost don't even have to hold them in with your hand. Okay. And you get the cover on. Slides in nicely. Okay. Alright, let's give it a test run.
Gentlemen, start your engine.
Okay, so it's time to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. We're going to start with the metal plate, or base rather, and you'll see the groove that it fits into, and it falls right into place very nicely. Next are the 2 orange paddles. Make sure you get the right and left orientation correct, or you're going to have a really hard time playing the game. And next I put the ball in, and I usually wipe it off, clean off fingerprints so there's no oil and stuff on it. Okay, so that's back in the game. Next I'm putting the reset button for the scoreboard. You'll see 2 holes behind the scoreboard. Very easy, goes right into place. And next is the glass cover, or plastic cover. And you do have to lift it up almost 45-degree angle to 90-degree angle to get it in, which I didn't do the first time here. So there I lifted it up a little higher and it fell right into place. So it can be a little stubborn, just got to work at it a little bit. And then the final piece here is going to be the cover for the scoreboard, which will eventually need to be screwed back in. And we have reassembled the pinball machine. Okay, so remember, when you go to put the screws back in, the shortest one goes on the side behind the light and the speakers because it's above the battery compartment. The other 2 screws are the same size, they can go in either hole. So now you flip it on its side and you attach the nuts to the 3 screws. Okay, so that concludes this video on replacing a DC motor in the Atomic Arcade Pinball Machine. Now, if you liked this video and you felt it left you enlightened, hit that like button. If not, come back tomorrow and I'm sure it will. Also, remember to subscribe as I'm currently working on other vintage toy repair videos. So thank you for watching and visiting my channel.